Okay, at least there's sound now, but this isn't the sound that I want it to be. So everything is broken on my end. This is plugged in, so it shouldn't be a problem. I got my green screen to work, but in the process, I broke everything else. So that's cool. My sound is probably not as good. He had to wrestle with the void last night. Why are you in the void? Yes, I'm stuck here because my tire popped in the middle of the night last night. I was out driving to try and get some stuff for this, and my tire blew out, and then I had to get it all fixed and wasn't able to get it fixed until this morning. So I got back super late and wasn't able to stream for you guys. And now my stream is all funky. So very sad story. Very, very sad story. So I'm in the void, but I can go in here and do window capture so that I look like I'm less in a void. Look, I'm in a void no more. We got to put that below here though. Guys, look, I am green screen. That is funny. I'm going to hide myself down here in the corner now. That's so weird. Way of the future. It's so fancy. All right. You're right. Our Minecraft community is flourishing. Plus, get on Java tonight. I will definitely get onto Java. I'm on here right now, right? But I just wanted to put that up because we're supposed to be talking about adulting 101. Let me grab my peanut butter before we get too far into this. I don't know how I forgot peanut butter in this whole process. Let alone my life is frozen. This is the last Reese's egg. Don't know what I'm doing with my life, but sad times. So, talking about adulting, some of the things that I wanted to talk about in reference to adulting. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give me those questions, and they can be about anything. So, if you want to ask any questions, it's peanut butter hour. Totally up to you. So let's let this adulting conversation go where it needs to go. However, what I wanted to talk about was some of the issues with what we're now looking at, which is the stimulus bill. This has been a conversation that you've maybe heard a lot, and I wanted to discuss it because there's facts and then there are things that are not quite facts, and we need to get all of that. Let's see if it popped back up. Maybe it's popping back up. Again, my audio is not as good, but I am on green screen. So I can try and figure that out by adding another audio input capture and seeing if that fixes anything. These things matter to me. Yes, get that Yeti stereo mic back up on here. Audio input capture 3 doesn't want to do anything. It should be plugged in.
Was it just muted the whole time? Because that'd be embarrassing. It was. Okay, cool. Delete. All right. Now we're rocking and rolling. Hey, I'm back. My audio is at least working correctly. I still don't know how to get the game screen working so that I can play and catch up on some of this stuff. But let's answer some questions really quick. Are endless unrest and unsatisfactory happiness levels something that you grow into because adult life, or is it something not okay? Endless unrest and unsatisfactory levels are always not okay. And what I say by not okay is like it might be something that you have to cope with. It might be something that is a reality that is your new reality, and that sucks. But it is also something that should get support. And there's actually a really powerful video by Dodie. If you guys have ever listened to any Dodie stuff, where she talks about her experiences with her mental health, and she kind of comes to this realization like, oh, I thought just growing up made you feel this way, but it's not just growing up. It was her responses to her trauma that dealt with that in that specific way. I stayed up until 4 a.m. last night copying a sewing pattern for my vest, and I don't think I'm even finished. And by the way, if we're making a skirt for Miss Ely because it will require less fabric. A skirt for me is going to require a lot of fabric. So just putting that out there. So Adulting 101. I guess this is Adulting 102, and I want to talk a little bit about the stimulus package. So I'm going to go to Google stimulus package. And we're going to break some of this stuff down. What I had heard about the stimulus package is that essentially about 33% of the money is going to individuals. And so there's going to be this money that comes to us directly as just a check from the government, right? And that people who are making under $75,000 a year are going to be getting $1,500 per adult in their household, and then $500 per child in their household. But Trump officially signed it. This comes from 4 hours ago, and is talking about a $2 trillion stimulus after Congress passes it Friday. So it's officially been signed, and this is what's going out as a stimulus. Now, I will buy a zipper. Hey, Sammy. Ooh, green screen, right? It's so fancy. I can't get my Elgato to work, but other than that, I think I may have found the wire that I needed this whole time. I think I just found the wire that was hiding. Here, let's see if this helps. I am getting very close to being a pro gamer, I'll tell you that much. Because I would love to talk about adulting while also doing this through... The cat just messed up the green screen. Did you guys see that like come off from the side? Cat's going crazy on this green screen right now. And I'm super distracted. Like I just miss you guys and want to answer questions and talk to you guys. So stimulus package, bunch of money coming in to you guys, to families, to just average people. But equal parts are also going out as loans, and loans that are going to go to larger businesses in order to bail out those businesses so that they don't have to shut down. Now, this is a lot of talk that seems to go into conversations about economics, and most of you guys, as my students, haven't taken an econ class, and so it's going to be a little bit confusing. We want something that isn't too morally horrible while still maximizing your publicity, right? Well, let's talk about the stimulus bill and see if that helps us, right? Helps us break into awkward conversations. So, biggest thing, if you make up to $75,000 a year, you'll get $1,200 for this payout, right? If you make between $75,000 and $99,000, you'll get gradually less. And if you make over $99,000, you won't get anything. So the vast majority of teachers are going to have some sort of part of this stimulus. And if you have kids, you will get $500 per child. So a larger family could be making a significant amount of money just because of this stimulus. So essentially the government is paying for people to stay home and is trying to help them to afford their bills. Now, let's talk generally economics, all right? Before everybody tunes out, the idea here, you have two different schools of thought. I'll say the first one is very popular, this concept of trickle-down economics, right? Which is to say that if somebody up at the top has a lot of money and they're making a lot of money, that ultimately that will benefit everybody. You also hear the phrase, a rising tide raises all boats. So more money in the economy means more money for everybody individually. That's the general concept. And so if somebody like Jeff Bezos has billions and billions of dollars, then he's able to have a company like Amazon, and that company is able to employ more people, and therefore those billions and billions of dollars serve to help everybody. Then there's the contrasting view of thought, pool of thought. And this sort of stimulus seems to lead to that other school of thought, which would be not a trickle down, but rather a straw. Straw forms of economics, a sucking up form of economics, puts you in this position. You as an average person, me as an average person, we're hanging out, playing video games, and trying to live our best lives. Something like this happens, and it shuts down everything. Now we're in a really tight spot. What's the best way to get money flowing in our economy? If I give it to Jeff Bezos is going to put it into a bank account where he will invest in other businesses, and through those investments, he'll make even more money, and he'll sit on that money. But if you give it to me, if you gave me $1,200 tomorrow, I can tell you exactly what I would pay for it. I would, first of all, spend a little bit of that on Starbucks. That will happen. That goes directly back into the economy. My spending on Starbucks then helps to employ the Starbucks employees in my neighborhood. All of us end up paying taxes on that stuff. So the more that money is moving around, the better. The way that this is basically broken down is through the metaphor of money is like manure. This comes from Hello Dolly. This is where I've got it from. But money is like manure. If it's all in one pile, it's a big pile of poop. But if it's moved around, then it's helping everything else grow. The more that our money moves, the more that it changes hands, the more people get to benefit from having that money. So you look at a stimulus bill like this. Do you have to pay taxes on it? No. What if you're on Social Security, on disability, or unemployed? Then yes, you can still get money. What's your amount based on? Your 2019 tax return. If you're unemployed, you get some money extra, right? When will you get the money? You should be getting it mid-April. What about student loans? You don't have to pay your student loans until October, right? This sort of stimulus bill that goes to a big chunk to the average person, this sort of stimulus bill helps to make sure that money moves around. I cannot, in this moment, save money. I simply can't do it. I mean, I could hypothetically not buy Animal Crossing, but that would have a deep impact on my mental health. I could decide to buy cheaper food, but the fact that I'm going to buy food with that money is not a debate. I will definitely take whatever money comes in and likely put it towards debts that I already had, or towards paying for essential goods, toilet paper, food, mild, small amounts of entertainment, my Netflix subscription. If you give me that money, here's the fact of it, likely by the end of the month, that money will be gone. You look to somebody who has even less money, and the chances of them spending that money by the end of the month are even higher, right? Somebody who has less money is like, I've desperately needed money in order to get by, so it all goes to rent. If it all goes to rent, it enters back into the marketplace and moves around more. The person who was renting you the house then takes it and puts it into a fancy dinner, and that helps the economy, right? Especially when you think about the people directly close to us in the Coachella Valley, all right? Let's say I give you, as a student, your $500 for being a kid right from the get-go. What would you spend that $500 on? Go ahead and put that in the chat. What would you spend $500 on if I gave it to you right now? As you guys are coming up with ideas and writing that sort of stuff down, I want you to think about how quickly you could spend that $500, right? You might buy something like, Blue says he would save it, but I would imagine that he would also buy some things that he wouldn't have otherwise, right? Like maybe fabric to sew with, maybe more sewing materials, maybe stuff that you were just like, I don't know what to do with this. But let's say you have that $500. You would probably buy fabric. Yeah. Yep. Animal Crossing JPEGs. I would buy some things that help me with my Animal Crossing world. If I had that $500, I can immediately think of things that I would spend it on and that would benefit me and my livelihood. That to me would act as investments to myself, right? Something like Animal Crossing or something like this entire streaming setup. If I had $500 extra, Armando, cool. Then if I had that $500 extra, I would immediately find things I could spend it on. Imagine if you, in your position, having that $500 as a student, can think of things that you would spend that money on, then you're very likely to spend it even more so if you have more needs, right? You're not paying rent, but your family is paying rent. You're not buying your essentials, but your family is buying your essentials. And so things like food and hygiene, right? All of that sort of stuff gets provided for you. But all of that requires that money move around. And in your local area, money moving around means something as simple as I'm going to tip my local barista. Tipping your local barista gives that barista a chance to go out to dinner, take their significant other out, maybe go to a movie. All of that immediately benefits our neighborhood, the people that we live around. So when we think of an economic stimulus package, there are two ways of thinking. Some people say we need to bail out bigger businesses. We need to bail out businesses like the airlines, for instance. They haven't been able to have business this whole time. And so if they aren't able to have that business, there's a good chance they'll shut down. Think about GameStop. If you're unfamiliar, GameStop fought and fought and fought to not shut down during this quarantine. And then the moment they did, literally a week later, they announced that 300 stores would be closing for good, right? So this quarantine shuts down those businesses. Your local neighborhood could be affected by that. You shut down one of those GameStops, maybe it's the GameStop right down the street from you. You've also lost those employees. And so they think, why don't we give money to GameStop so that GameStop will continue employing those people? But the reality of it is, you could get it somewhere else. And you could likely get it from somebody who is a local supplier. Right? GameStop shutting down means that it now has an opportunity for somebody like you or me to open up our own game store. And our own game store can serve our community needs more acutely, like more focused. So when you have something shut down that's a big box store, like let's say Target. We lost a Target in India because of the last economic crisis, right? Then we go into a state of panic. How does this area get the stuff that it needs? And so oftentimes people are like, well, I'm more likely to buy stuff from my local GameStop or my local Target, so I want them to be bailed out. I need my airport to still be open and still function. So I'm going to have that airport be open and still function by having them be bailed out, by having those airports be bailed out. But the reality of it is, what ends up happening, and what happened before when there were bailouts, is that large companies will end up buying back their stock. And buying back their stock is like saying, essentially, we're going to make our company look more valuable than it is, and then we're going to give a bunch of money to people who have bought stock into us, so that people think that we're a good business, and then they give us more money. It's basically like creating a money printing machine. And it's what we've been doing since the 1980s. The 1980s allowed businesses to start doing stock buybacks. And those stock buybacks resulted in inflated economies where things were happening. Yeah, the Target near the freeway, gone. Bye. Super sucks. The Super Target, super gone. Super sucks. Okay, so when you have something like a stock buyback, it inflates the value of that specific thing. So this has been happening even in the last year for those businesses, for those airlines, right? So those airlines will take the money that is given to them and they will then invest it in their own stocks to make their company look more valuable so that more people invest in the company, so it creates more value. And the chances of it ensuring that something stays open are very slim, because if you don't have money to go to the local airport or the local GameStop, then you can't keep that place open. There's no reason why GameStop would stay open in that area if you don't have the funds to buy video games. So I say, okay, every one of you guys gets $500, and I guarantee some of you are like, that's a Switch. That's a Switch with Animal Crossing. That's a Switch with Animal Crossing and an extra controller, right? Like, I know exactly what I would spend that $500 on, right? And that would keep that GameStop open and employing people. unlike a government subsidy. A government subsidy coming from this stimulus package would likely go back into stock buybacks or ways of inflating the value of that business, right? So it sounds a little bit boring at this point, but the gist is ultimately the debate between whether or not we should support individuals and just flat out give them money, or if we should make sure that businesses have a way out. If we look at this through the lens of what we call free market economics, right? That the market should be able to do whatever the heck that it wants with very little regulation. Then the best way to get a free market would be to put money back to the lower end where people spend that money more frequently. And then the market will be dictated by what we want to spend our money on, right? If in the Coachella Valley, nobody ends up going to GameStop, then we're not going to be sad that GameStop closes. Whereas if it then opens up a venue for somebody else to create their own game store, or their own record company, their own record store, or their own whatever number of places like that, bookstores, if Barnes & Noble were to shut down, hey AMT, all of that, we would have say in. We would be able to start our own businesses. We'd be able to sell the stuff that we think this county, this neighborhood needs more, right? So ultimately, it ends up taking power away from a larger corporation and giving it to you guys. I go to Target. I like Target. I go to Target and they tell me what is cool. I know exactly what to wear when I go to Target because Target shows me on their mannequins. However, imagine that Target gets shut down. How am I supposed to determine what's fashionable? I might look to somebody like Blue, who then says, I can actually sew clothes, and I'm going to make things that are stylish in the way that I think that they're stylish. And now we have somebody who's able to be passionate and able to... Armando, I'm looking at you. This is weird. Okay, got it. Barnes & Noble at the River, yeah, if that got shut down. It did get shut down. It's really funny that while you were talking about all of this, a big old support local businesses is on the screen. Does it say that? Oh, it does. Yeah. On the Minecraft. Right. So when something like Barnes & Noble shuts down, it opens up the opportunity for us to have people who want to dedicate their lives to finding good books. This creates a deeper culture as well. It means that when I go to a place like Coachella Valley, I can more easily find books that serve that community and those people. I can more easily find people who are connected to their community based off of the shops that are available for them. So the more money I give to people who are likely to spend it, the more my cultures and my communities support each other. This is really important as we start talking about Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, because Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers has the same beginning to it. The process of figuring out how much community is affecting whether or not we're doing well or doing poorly, right? If I have something like Kaiser Permanente, massive health company. It's all over the place. Kaiser Permanente has struggles dealing with the needs of our community because they don't have as much access to mental health out here in the desert. They don't have as much access for teens or young families because for the most part, they have to deal with the large elderly population that's out here. It serves them best to deal with that. And then everything beyond that is less profitable. So if the Kaiser Permanente shut down because they didn't get bailed out during this quarantine, then we could open up local doctor's offices that serve that community more acutely, right? Meaning focused specifically on that community's needs. Honestly, one of the biggest pieces of culture shock I had when visiting different places in Europe was seeing just how many local shops are everywhere. Yes. And it's because of this idea of upward mobility, right? If I know that I can get access to a job that pays me well enough that I can save money and then I can use that saved money to create my own business and do just the things that I love to do, then I would be more likely to offer things that specifically help my community from a perspective that is unique to me. I want to do this thing because it makes things better. Ooh, Idlewild, great example of that, right? Idlewild is isolated in more ways than one, right? They're isolated culturally as well as being isolated physically, and that creates this very sort of enclosed space where smaller businesses are able to thrive, right? And that's because those local shops are able to close down without much consequence, whereas our shops have to compete with a 24/7 Walmart or a 24/7 CVS, right? Almost has this thing where local shops are looked down upon by, because for the most part, you pay an extra price to go to a local business, right? You pay you pay basically an extra little tax for going to a local business because they can't save as much when they buy things in bulk. A place like GameStop, the way that their business is set up, they buy a whole bunch of copies of Animal Crossing, and in that buying up all those copies, Nintendo says, we'll give you a discount. So every copy that they sell, they make more money back than a smaller company would. A smaller company that only needs to buy 50 copies to serve their neighborhood ends up having to make less money off of it. And that makes it very difficult for us to compete. So the idea here would be that if more money went to local people, more money would go to local communities, and therefore more local communities would be able to thrive. This is why we see a mass exodus from places that were smaller areas. Cities are becoming more and more populated while small towns are drying up and dying. So this is ultimately very problematic. And when we look at a stimulus bill like this, it tried to balance both of those things. And I think it made possibly too many concessions and isn't clear about who it's trying to support. It's trying to check all the boxes so that everyone will be like, okay, I'm a little bit okay with this. But it's not ultimately leaning one way or the other. It's a lot of like loans for businesses. And here's where I would warn you guys as young adults. When situations like this happen, it's an invitation for people to take advantage of that situation. This is that idea of like, somebody who's playing 3D chess, somebody who's thinking over your head, right? This allows for things like there was a state of emergency, and that state of emergency allowed the EPA to say, we're going to pause all environmental protections until the state of emergency is lifted. That is insane. The idea that all environmental regulations would be paused is very problematic. And the idea behind it is to allow larger businesses to spend less money ensuring that they're protecting the environment while this is happening. Those sort of things get hidden in economic stimulus packages. So you get somebody who says, here's $1,200, and you're like, dope, I know exactly how I'll spend that $1,200. That's way better. But the next page of that says, by the way, we're going to shut down all environmental protections in order to help these businesses. Or that these businesses will be insured specific protections, and in protecting those specific businesses, we've ruined the idea of a free market. We've given a leg up to specific companies, right? I might really like Alaska Air, and Alaska Air might be flying out of Palm Springs, and that's dope. But if they don't have specific protections in this bill, they might get bought out by something like American Airlines, and American Airlines could say, we don't want to serve Palm Springs. And since it's a larger company, they're not inclined to help that community. Whereas if a smaller company that was based out of Palm Springs was doing those flights, then their entire business would be based off of serving this community. And if we ensured that local people got stimulus from these bills, then we could ensure also that everybody in the community that wanted to fly had access to that ability to fly. To break it down as simply as possible, if I give you $1,200, the chances of you going to Starbucks are very high. If I give American Airlines $12 million, they're not going to just spend it on Starbucks. They're going to spend it on making their business look more valuable, because that's spending money to make money. Most of us, you and I, spend money to survive or to enjoy surviving. don't dismiss the fact that enjoying your survival is also an essential part of this whole thing. So don't think of it like, hey, look, this person who says they're poor just bought ice cream. That's not real poverty. That's ridiculous. We all need a little ice cream sometimes. We all need to enjoy our lives a little bit more. Spending $5 on an ice cream cone doesn't mean that you are not being responsible with your finances. Spending $5 million buying up stocks to make your business looks like it's worth $2 more extra billion is a terrible way of spending that money. And it ultimately just helps to prop up larger businesses. So when we look at this bill, it seems to be balanced between these two things in a way that doesn't quite vibe with either. And that's very dangerous. This isn't a full answer to the problem. And many people have said you should expect more payouts in the future because $1,200 a month is not enough for many people to survive. Luckily in California, our governor, Gavin Newsom, has done a lot. There we go. The idea that Gavin Newsom did a lot to like shut stuff down in as far as collecting money for people's housing, right? Mortgage payments have been paused for the next hypothetically 3 months. Bank of America only allowed 1 month. Everyone should boycott Bank of America because they're a bunch of terrible people. Also HSBC, that's a whole nother conversation. Watch Dirty Money if you want to know more about that. However, we should do what we can to also help those that are most in need. Just because we lifted the payments towards mortgages doesn't mean that we've lifted rent payments. And most of the people who are in the highest level of poverty are paying rent. They're not paying mortgages. So larger businesses are not having to pay their mortgage, but are still charging smaller people with rent payments. And so they're just ultimately making a tremendous amount of profit during this time, unless they're waiving those rent payments and allowing people to stay in those apartments. When we think of it that way, why don't we just give money directly to people to make it easier for them to pay rent? Wouldn't that make a lot of sense? And if it's to pay rent, then I can guarantee you in Southern California especially, it's going to be far more than $1,200. For paying rent for me in a one-bedroom apartment, when I was in a one-bedroom apartment just last year, it was $1,400. So $1,200 doesn't even cover the payment of rent for somebody in a one-bedroom apartment. That is not enough of a stimulus, because ultimately it just says my small amount of money goes directly to the people I'm paying rent to, and none of it goes back into supporting your local Starbucks or your local coffee shop. I know Just Java over on Washington is staying open right now. That's a great way to support a local business. They have a drive-through, that sort of stuff. Bill Gates did not pull himself up by his bootstraps. We're going to be talking about that as we discuss outliers. It's one of the things that he talks about. I don't know why you guys are talking about condoms. And hey, Jocelyn, how you doing? You're awesome. I'm glad you're here. I would eat more peanut butter, but somebody took all the peanut butter away from me. I got that, Blue. I got you. Were being sarcastic. I'm sorry. Somebody took all my peanut butter away from me.
I'm sorry. Would you like the handmade thing my grandma made you?
Where's the Reese's?
In our bellies.
In our bellies?
Uh-huh.
How many are in your bellies?
I don't know.
That's what I thought. Now I got to go back out to my local store, which is Target.
No. My grandma's baking for him homemade Reese's peanut butter. I don't know what they
green screen.
Oh. Hi guys.
Hey.
My grandma baked him stuff. He's not. Don't feel bad for him.
Feel bad for me. Feel bad for me. I'm gonna eat this though. It's peanut butter, made by Grandma.
You also had cake this week too.
This is not healthy. I missed this period too. So, talking about the stimulus package through this lens of what it means to be adulting, what are some of the questions that you guys have? He wants the recipe for this. We don't even know what it is. I think there's Rice Krispies. I think there's peanut butter. That's true. And there's, I think there's some melted chocolate chips on the top. It's good. It's peanut buttery. Do. I chewed. Yay, peanut butter. So, we talked a lot about economic stimulus, what works, what doesn't work, and why it's a point of conversation right now. There are people who are actively trying to make it more difficult and who are trying to get more money out of it. And then they're going to blame people that are poor for trying to take more money out of it. For instance, you'll notice there was a viral clip going around of Bernie Sanders basically saying it's ridiculous to stop this bill from going through just because some poor people on unemployment might make more during this time than they would on a normal day of unemployment. We have a record number, and by record number, I mean 5 times higher than the previous high record number of unemployment that has been filed in this month. So we need to make sure that we're taking care of individuals. Individuals ultimately help our economy far, far, far more because they participate in our local economy. So when we look at this, support local businesses popping up on Minecraft, I completely agree. The more that we support local businesses, the more that we can have students that are starting up their own Minecraft servers and selling to people internationally. The more that you can have people like Blue that are sewing stuff and being able to sell that stuff in local shops. The more that we give opportunities to individuals, the more that our lives are made happy. Our happiness is directly related to the environment that we're in, the culture that we're in, and how much support we feel like we're getting from that culture. So when somebody is basically saying, yeah, it's cool, you like to sew, but go ahead and get a job at Starbucks, that's not exactly the best way to support individuals. The better way to support individuals would be saying, yeah, let's pay you well enough while you're at Starbucks so we can get to a point where you are able to start your own clothing company. You're able to pursue those passions because that ultimately benefits all of our society more. With that being said, I'm going to check in on my Minecraft Java server. I'm clicking on OBS and not on the actual server. Whoops. My Minecraft Java server. You guys can ask me questions. Jocelyn, chicken nuggets. I wonder what's happened here. I wonder if I'm being like buried underground. There are 3 people already on my server. Very, very sticky situation here. Teleport. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh, nothing makes me happier than that. Thoughts on the rate strike. I meant to, please not. I meant to teleport to Tommy. I meant to teleport to you. White Shadow, who are you? You're not even on the stream. Okay, thoughts on the idea of a rent strike. It seems like a really neat idea, but I'd imagine actually being able to participate in one is a matter of privileged circumstance for a lot of people. I'm very sorry, Sammy. Hey, Jimmy. So with this being said, yes, the rent strike very much, I think, would be beneficial. I think that it's something that we have to do. I got to go help Sammy. We have to find ways to... Oops, crap. Crap. Guys, I messed with Tommy too much. Let me get him back. TP Tommy here. Why won't it just drop all of them? Jeez. This is like an awkward, quiet moment. Here, take your stone bricks too, Tommy. No, I can't get back home. I don't know where home is. Okay, so the idea of a rent strike. I think that we need to find ways to strike in this moment, or else we will lose power. So the more that we feel like we're stuck inside and that we are powerless, the more powerlessness there is, right? So yes, we should do whatever we can to exert control over our surroundings, which is why you have more of my stuff in your inventory, press E. Okay. The more that we can do to try to affect our reality, the better off we'll be. All right? I feel like that should have been like a powerful moment, but I'm here licking my fingers. And there's nothing in my inventory. I mean, I have everything in my inventory. That's not going to help. I should just throw a bet at him. I really want to summon an Ender Dragon. I'm not gonna. ASMR of me eating. Why did you kill me? I was just trying to get my stuff back. Someone destroyed Blue's house. That's a shame. All right, well, I gave somebody a bed. TP myself to Tommy. Oh, this is cool. Oh, Tommy, I mean, Blue, that might have been me. That might have been me. In other news today, a local English teacher choked on a peanut butter cup while in isolation from laughing too hard. That's the truth, kiddos. That's super cool. Here, I'll give you a saddle. And some TNT. What should I give him, guys? What do you want, Tommy? Money? They like did some serious work, guys. That's like a full freaking treehouse. That's sort of really cool. I should give him some creeper eggs. Okay, I'll give him some creeper eggs. Give creeper eggs. Can I get more than one? Oh, yeah, I can. Okay. Oh, I hate that. No, stop. Literally stop. Mr. Jackson, I'm going to give him a creeper egg. Don't give him a creeper egg. Why? I thought it was good. It will blow everything up. We worked a whole 2 days on it, threw the creeper eggs over the side. Okay, Sammy's lying to me. I get it. It's because of the peaches, isn't it? Nice treehouse, Tommy. I did check it. Thank you for the money laundered money. I was going to send you something back, but then I got distracted by not having access to my stuff because I was popped tire. No! Dang it! I'm bad at this. F. How do I teleport him to a specific location then? Oh, and also, what location should he go to? My house, though. Nobody's... Okay. Well, look, he's got a really cool treehouse. Isn't that kind of cool? Just me and Daniel. I don't know what the location is. This is super dope. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to have to leave unless you guys have some questions for me. I'm also going to pop over here because I know that you're going to ask if Kenna is still here, that Kenna is going to ask. Boop. Ah! Look, it's me. I'm doing the daily picture. Did I do it enough? Did I do it enough? Does this count? All right. Okay, with that being said, you guys are awesome. I've got to go pick up my kiddos. They might end up making an appearance on the live stream tonight if they don't go to sleep when they're supposed to. That it doesn't fit in my wallet anymore. I have to carry it in my inventory. Why did you... Is that because you are money laundering? I wish that worked in real life, right? I'm glad you're here, Kenna. I'm sorry for teasing you. It's just that I don't know who's in the chat unless they're chatting. I don't know who's watching unless they're chatting. I have to go to a different screen to see who all is actually here. You're all lovely and amazing. I'm going to sign off. I feel like a giant monster. That's hilarious. All right. Stomp your feet. Clap your lap. I will see you guys tonight. Quack.